Part 2 of Racial Identity Crisis. This is probably going to be an anthology. No, it's just after midnight. I'm supposed to be in a bed, but before I go, I said that I needed to make this video, so I'm going to make this video because if not me, then who? And who better than a person who has three ethnicities flowing through his blood at all times than someone who doesn't? Here's the thing about being mixed. If you're not mixed, there's a lot of shit that you do not get. Literally, there's a lot of shit that you do not get. And one of the things you won't get is when people look at you and say, do you relate more to your black side or your Cherokee side or your white side? That's only been asked to me like maybe 3 times by 3 different people. One white, one black, okay, one guy mixed. So, okay, I kind of had to remember the third person was mixed. No, 4 times, because an Asian actually asked me when I was playing tennis. I don't remember his name, but his sister's name was Hannah. She was the second Hannah that I spoke to that was Asian. Long story, we won't go there. Anyway, they were both very beautiful girls. I'm just not their type. Must be because I'm half-breed. But, his name was Joe. That's what his name was. So, we're in college, and Joe, I have to take tennis for the acting class. I had to do a gym. I didn't want to just have to do the gym like I did before where I worked out all the freaking time. So I took tennis. I can't remember how to keep score, but I can play tennis. The tennis teacher was not too impressed because of the fact that when I couldn't reach it from the left, instead of taking my hand and going across my body, I switched my racket. And it's like, you can't do that. I said, this isn't a professional game. He said, yeah, well, if you ever go professional. I said, dude, I'm like 27 years old. I'm not going professional. I'm only taking this class because I have to. So it's like, well, try not to do that much. It's like, reflex, man. I took martial arts. I can't help it. Sometimes it's just simpler to just switch off and hit with the other hand. It's like, so you're not left-handed? I said, I'm pretty much even-handed on everything that I do. So Joe got to talking to me. He says, I got to ask you a question. And I was like, okay. I didn't know it was going to be about my race. Yeah. So first question was, what is your race? And it blew me off because Joe and I is about the same color, but Joe was from Vietnam. No. And I said, well, I'm Native American, black and white. He's like, and which do you relate to the most? I said, honestly, I'm mixed. I don't really relate to much. At the time, I kind of wanted to brush him off because I didn't want to say, well, I kind of relate more to my Cherokee side, but we didn't do anything Cherokee in the family on either side. We did not do any Cherokee celebrations, any Native American festivals, you name it, we never done it. We've never explored the Cherokee side of our family, and I have it on both sides, so it never even came up. If we did anything, we just did black shit. Because I used to love Thanksgiving until I found out Thanksgiving was not something to be thankful for. Thanksgiving is no longer my favorite holiday. It was my favorite holiday at first because it was the only Native American thing we did in the house. And we didn't do it like Native Americans. And then I seen that commercial a few years ago. It's like, oh, great. And after doing more research, I was like, oh, great. So now I don't have a favorite holiday anymore. But, I told him, for the most part, I guess I'm closer related to black because we don't really do anything. This is before I met my friend who taught me that Native Americans were Asian. So, this is like maybe 2 years before that. So, it didn't really dawn on me. Now, back in grade school, a white kid asked me and a black kid asked me. And both of them asked if I felt more closer to black or white, because we didn't know I was Native American at the time. And so I was like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I feel closer to black because we live in a black neighborhood. We just do black shit. And he couldn't figure out what I meant. And I just told him, I was like, look, do you eat hamburgers and french fries just like everybody else? I don't fucking know. And this would never happen had my mom not come to school for me punching a girl in the mouth for calling me a nigger. She probably came to school a couple of times when I was in kindergarten for some other dumb shit, and definitely in first grade. But those same kids, I don't remember them being in those classes, so I don't really know. But they pointed it out that you have a white mom, James. You have a white mom. And up into the 5th grade, that's like the only thing that they could use against me in an argument. Because they had me did the rights right there. James, you got a white mom. And some of the kids would be in class and they would go out of the way, and the teacher had already hit the stop talking button. So y'all don't be talking while y'all in class. And one of the kids would be like, James, James. I'm like, what? The teacher would catch me. James, sorry. Get back to work. Back to work. James, James. What? You got a white mama. That shit used to piss me off to no end. And it seemed to be like different kids in different classes, the same thing. They love to point out my mama. This is why you mama jokes don't really fuck with me. It was like, your mama's so white, I can't say anything. Right? I was a lot of victim on that shit. Your mama's so white. If you cut off the light, you can still see her. Say, yeah, that's probably about right. My mom's one white ass woman. And I couldn't really make any comebacks because I had nothing. And I didn't talk about people's moms because I wasn't raised that way. And if I did talk about somebody's mom, believe me, my mom would take a belt to my ass. So I didn't do any of that dumb shit. Then, by the time we got to grade school, everybody and their mamas knew I was mixed. And the mixed kids have probably I'm going to say it from the boys' point of view, because the mixed girls that I knew didn't seem to have a problem blending in. But, it's always better to be a girl in that situation, because girls, what else is there? You're girls. Y'all are fucking awesome. But when you're a guy, you're just like a fly on the wall, or a roach that someone wants to stomp. So, I'm sitting there, and we're in middle school and grade school. By then, they're like, so when you hang with kids at school, do you hang with black kids or do you hang with white kids? And I'm like, I'm lucky if I hang with anybody. Especially after the race war thing we had at grade school, where the black kids wouldn't let me be on their side because I'm not a real nigger. I was a half nigger. I have been called a zebra at least once or twice in grade school. We owe that to good times. No, not good times. We owe that to the Jeffersons. Yes, the Jeffersons. With Sherman Hemsley, George Jefferson. We don't really owe it to Benson, and we don't really owe it to good times like talking about it, but we definitely owe it to George Jefferson for calling Tom and his black wife Mr. and Mrs. Kravitz, son Leo or Leonard, whatever the guy's name was. They kept calling him a zebra, and it's like, yeah, we don't want you having our something with zebra babies or some shit. So it was like really fracked up some shit, And in school, I guess everybody watched the Jeffersons because that was one more they had on me. Hey, James. You're a zebra. I'm thinking to myself, because, at first I wheels weren't grinding up in there. I'm in grade school, so wheels weren't grinding very much. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Then it went to, from being a zebra, you're a peppermint patty because you're black on the outside and you're white on the inside. Kind of like what Asians call Asians today, the Twinkies. They're Asian on the outside and white on the inside. It's all kinds of... There's so many racist innuendos that you can do for that shit now. But back then, you were a peppermint patty or you were a fucking zebra. And I was both. So, yeah. I got some leg issues. I got, like, shaky leg syndrome or whatever the hell you call the shit. Restless leg syndrome, something. I don't know what it is. I can't really blame the Army because I think I had this before I got there. But, interesting enough, the whole thing was, it was an incredibly racist stuff, and you live and you learn, you live and you learn. And when you're mixed, you do have identity crisis. You have moments when you're identity crisis. I can't speak for gender identity because I've never had a gender identity crisis. But for the most part, you know, for the most part, for in general, you do have identity crisis, but you don't really have them. I wouldn't say it was like given to you by like choice. I would say it's more like forced because people. I'm sorry, Spider-Man: Far From Home's on. Just y'all don't think I was bullshitting you, and I was distracted. And when you're watching stuff like that, I want my phone won't charge up. But when you're watching stuff like that, it throws you off your game when you're trying to do things like this. But they never gave it a break, like ever. And I mean, I never got a break from racial slurs, racial stuff. Like I said, in the fourth grade, a girl called me a nigger and I punched her in the mouth. I've never forgiven myself for that. I know you're all thinking she probably deserved it. No, no. I knew better. I was raised better. And if anything, I should have been able to walk away because I was also a martial artist. So I should have been able to walk away. But it was total reflex action. Having reflex control as a martial artist is very important until it's not. Well, I didn't have reflex control. I had impulse control, but I didn't have reflex control. And that was kind of a little bit of reflective because she was right in my face and she goes, "James, you're a nigger." And before I knew what happened, blood trickling down her lip, blood's on my fist. So, it was that. But for the most part, when you're mixed, you will face a different type of adversity than most people. And most people won't get that because if they're not mixed, they're not going to understand that shit. Which goes back to the ladies of the View chunking down the Rock because the Rock was going to do John Henry and they didn't think that he was black enough to do John Henry. And I was like, to be honest, the folk song of John Henry doesn't really describe his exact color. Let's see, how's it go? Old John Henry was a steel driving man. Brace yourselves, I'm gonna try to sing this shit. Old John Henry was a steel driving man. He died on the railroad with his hammer in his hand. Old John Henry was a steel driving man. He died on them tracks with his hammer in his hand. So for those who don't know about old John Henry was one of the black folklore heroes based in fact. John Henry had to fight against a machine who could nail the most railroad spikes into the wood on the track. And John Henry was not a very intelligent man, but he was a strong man, and he could drive the spike into the wood like nobody else. So he built railroads, and in doing so, he yeah, fighting a machine press that was shooting nails, and whoever was rolling with the press. The problem was the press overheated and ran out. John Henry didn't run out until he died. He literally died doing his job, banging a nail into the hammer. Or bringing a hammer into the nail. Sorry, Spider-Man. So anyway, that being said, when the ladies of the Real said something about that, it kind of hurt my feelings because I really liked the show. And I was like, okay, we have one mixed person on the show. We have a Hispanic girl, a black woman, an Asian woman, and a mixed woman. Which is one of the reasons why I like the show, because it's very multi-diverse. But when they kind of came down on the rock about that John Henry thing, I was kind of upset. It was like, why can't he play John Henry? Why? Because he played Mufayas? I think that's what his name was. It's my favorite damn movie, and I can't remember his character name. But he played the Scorpion King. And, don't even really know what Scorpion King's freaking ethnicity is supposed to be. But there you go. Now the funny thing about that is that this video started off about congratulating Mia Yim on clapping back on someone making a racist statement towards her. So we're gonna continue in the third video. Trying to keep these things under 20 minutes, people. Excuse me. So I'm sorry.